All right, here's the latest and greatest. This is going to be a furnace that's going to go into the dungeon. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Big Ant at Erie Acres. As soon as he did a tutorial on his Monster in the Box, I knew exactly how to make this happen. So if you haven't already, check him out, subscribe. All right, let's trigger it. All right, let's see how we made this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is draw out my dimensions on the foam board. This is going to be a front. It's going to be 4 feet high by 2 feet wide. This is going to be the back, same dimension. These are going to be the sides, 4 feet high by 12 inches deep. And then these two here are going to be the top and bottom. It's going to be 2 feet wide by 1 foot deep. And yay, it's going to leave me a 2 foot by 2 foot square to do with whatever else I want. All right, let's get these cut up and assembled. All right, so I have the box put together. I just simply used drywall screws. You can see here I just kind of sunk them, countersunk them. And now I'm going to have these joints on here. But you know what? I really don't care. Because this thing's going to really look rough anyway. And I'm just really not going to clean it up much. I'm going to use some drywall compound and fill in those holes. You can see here that I put a little base around it. And those two blue pieces, or the hinges, are going to attach. Now this is a flame light that you can find, you know, most anywhere nowadays. Spirit Halloween has them. And what I did is I simply cut out a hole for it. And it just sits right down in there. Now, a couple other steps coming up is I need to put a texture finish and start painting it, put the doors on, and put the mechanism on for the door. It's pretty tall. It's 4 feet tall. I dig it. All right, so here I am cutting out the door, and what I'm doing here is using a foam cutter to cut out the half circles at the top and the bottom. And then what I'm going to go back to do is use an X-Acto knife to cut the straight lines. Alright, so let's take this last piece out. And there you go. See how it looks. Yeah, that's going to be sharp. I'm going to like that. Time for some hinges. Okay, well there we go. I have the hinges on, and now I have the door handle. Now, as you can see here, you know, the door hinges really aren't kind of centered up on that. Oh well. Now, here's one of these detail things. If you're going to use a lot of glue, which I did in this case, to go ahead and get this hinge to stay, go ahead and wipe off all that excess glue, because what it's going to do is take away from the sharp edges and kind of cut down on the detail. Now, I know that's a small thing, but it adds up on a project like this. So let me back up here. See how it's coming together? Let me turn that light on. So yeah, I dig it. I really dig it. Now, listen to that motor. It's really working hard. I'm going to tilt this forward and it stops working so hard. What does that tell you? I need to cut a hole in the back for airflow. It's one of those things you figure out. Okay, so two new things that I've done here is I centered up those hinges. It was bothering me. So I centered them up on the blocks there. Now the other thing is that fan was moving a lot of air. So I went ahead and drilled some holes into the back for good airflow. Okay, so here's a couple of tips for you. Always have lots of Kool-Aid on hand because you're going to get really thirsty, and never throw anything away. These little pieces here were made from the cutouts for the door, and what I'm going to do here is sand down the edges, hit it with a heat gun and make it a little bit rough, paint them black, and then I'm going to have chunks of coal to put around the fire. Okay, so you can see how those coals are going to kind of look in there, and you could also hear the ambient sound from my Peekaboo controller. Okay, so now for the rivets. So what I've done here is taken my foam cutter and I've cut out a little bit of a hole right here, and what that's going to allow me to do is to sink this little knob here right down in there, just like that, and it's going to look like a rivet. So the product that I've used for those are 1/2-inch button plugs. So once I get them all in, they'll look like rivets, and I've spaced those 4 inches apart. Okay, before I get too far ahead of myself, I have applied the texture to the surface, and I've also gone ahead and put in the rivets as I've shown before, and I've made the pipes to go off to the side. I've used a 3-inch PVC. That is a toilet flange that helps it stand upright. And I've just kind of put together a few fittings here that I thought that would look kind of cool. We'll get these painted up. Now I have glued to the body of the furnace a 2-inch drain pipe to act as a joint to kind of hold it together there. Let's see what that looks like on the inside. I've used epoxy cement. I really like to use that stuff. And then all it does is slide right in there to kind of hold it in place. I can't do that one-handed. And this is going to be 7 feet tall to go right up to the ceiling. And I had to stop for a second before I painted it black. I wanted to show you what it looked like beforehand. Now the first thing I'm going to do is put a black latex paint base coat. Then I'm going to put the black metallic, and then I'm going to put the rust colored primer over the top of it to give it a rusted look. And this can be found also in my tutorial on how to cast iron pipes. Let me get to it. Alright, so here it is with the paint and texture. Give you a good look there. Let's zoom in a little bit closer. We can see some of the detail. Now to recap, we're going to put down some wall texture first. We're going to let that dry thoroughly overnight. On the styrofoam, we're going to use latex paint. We're going to use a black base. On the plastic, we can go ahead and use a black or dark gray spray paint and enamel. And then we're going to lightly dust it with a metallic finish to get that sparkle. And then we're going to kind of knock it down with a little bit of rust primer. And then if you have to, go back and hit it again with the metallic paint. You know, if you've put too much on in one spot. See some of the tombstones I'm working on. Again. That's how she's looking. Alright, I need to start working on some mechanics. Now before I get everything tucked away, I'll show the mechanicals here. Of course, I use a Peekaboo controller with a speaker and a pressure mat. Now, in order to make the actuator go in and out, the Peekaboo controller has to be wired up as if you're controlling a motor going two ways. Insert photo here. Off of the internet, I got some sounds for a fire, a boiler, and steam, and I combined all of those. Now, this is the actuator that we're going to use. This is available on Amazon. Insert photo here. Now these are door lock actuators. So when you push the button to lock the doors on your car, this is what does it. Now, let's see how we rigged it up in here. See if we can see this okay. I've actually glued it in place. I've used some long nails to hold it, and then I used epoxy cement to glue it. And I used a spring here with just a little bit of tension on it. You don't want to make it too tight, because then you'll actually break the foam. Now, in order to put the hooks into the foam, I also had to use quite a bit of epoxy cement to make that work, because otherwise it would just pull right out of the foam. Because if you've ever tried to drive a screw in a foam, you know, it just doesn't work. So you can see here, that's going to just snap right back. All right, let's see how it works. We're going to step on the mat. And there you go. All right. Well, I'm busy. It's in the last couple of weeks. I actually had an invitation to help out a pro hunt this year, but I have so many things I need to build, so I have to say, on to the next thing.